So this is a bit weird, and I never thought I'd ever make like a track guide video because my pace is normally shocking. I normally rely on just like making up the places during the race, but in this case, for my level, like B3 DR, I was finding I actually had pace on people. Like I got pole, the 2 races I did in the Inters here, I got pole, and then I just walked it to the finish, and it was just shocking for me. So I thought I might just share how I got there. Because also I've had a quick look on YouTube, and I've seen there's a Coach Dave hot lap, which is great, and it's like a good 2-3 seconds quicker than this, but he takes a lot of curb on entry and stuff, and I know the times when I've like caught some curb in places they'd take their hammer in it, it's really thrown me with the FFB, like it's pulled my wheel and it's just felt sketchy. So I'm hoping, just share this. It might be helpful to some people like me who are like B3, like lower rated drivers who want to go a bit quicker, but I can't quite take it to alien levels. And something I picked up on this I never really touched before is TC. There'd been a bit of talk on the Discord about changing your TC settings, in the fixed setup series, just to kind of gain a bit more pace. I gave it a go, and so long as you can control it, I did find it was quite a bit quicker. So this lap, I think I was down at like 3, and I found that so long as you're not combining too much steering at the same time, I found it pretty controllable. And you got, say, out that hairpin going up the hill, instead of just lighting up the dash like a Christmas tree with TC, I found that I was actually getting drive, and I was gaining like a 10th or so up that hill, and a few different places like that. So it's something worth trying. Just keep gradually dropping the TC down a little bit until you feel like you don't need it. Into this final corner, I was like short shifting into it, and not braking into it, just rolling off the throttle, and then turning pretty hard and riding a bit of curb. So that inside curb can help to rotate the car a bit. And I also found as well, you don't want to wait too long to get on the throttle on the way out, because if you apply it a bit more quickly, you can actually get a bit of rotation on the exit as well. My braking marker into the first corner was this little access road on the right hand side. You could probably push it a little bit later, but I found I started to get a bit unsettled into the first corner, and it meant more to me to get the first turn in right than it was to brake later. And for the initial turn in, I was trying to keep it as far to the right as I could, riding a white line, but I didn't like touching the curb. And I probably could have turned in a bit later here, but I think when you're entering the first bit on the left, it's so easy to get a cut that I'm quite focused on that, and I was messing up my turning. But I was sort of trying to turn in fairly hard over this left curb. A little dab of throttle in between to settle the car a bit, then turning hard to the right. I've seen people go flat from here, and that's obviously going to be faster, but I struggle to consistently do that. I found just kind of like keeping a bit of a neutral throttle while the car turned, I could then nail it out of the second right-hander. But into the second chicane, I was braking just after the 100 metre board, and it's not a huge brake, knocking down a gear, trail braking in slightly to help it turn, but I found that once you're like midway across the track, just roll off the brake and turn in, because otherwise I actually lost the car once by carrying the brake a bit too far here. And this is about as much curb as I think I wanted to take. I think as long as your right hand wheels are on the right hand side of a white line, you're good. But I tried to keep over to the left as much as I could afterwards, so I could really open up the next right hander. Though it's a pretty short straight following this corner, I actually think this is a pretty important one. I know you can make some good time here, and you can maybe even set yourself up for a lunge into the hairpin at the end. But I found at this point you had to turn in super hard and then use all the curb you could get over on the inside. And then on exit, as the car's just starting to get settled, if you feed in the throttle a little bit quicker than it wants, really, it helps a little bit extra rotation. And you can go so much quicker than if you cocked up the entry a bit more. I mucked up this hairpin a bit this lap, but other laps I was trying to enter with a bit of speed, because you got the uphill to help slow you down, but also just kind of square it off a bit, about 2/3 of the way around, so that I could just put a little bit of extra steering angle in, get the straighten out the exit. So I didn't really want to be gradually developing the throttle. I wanted to just nail it out the other end. And you know, like I said earlier, with the TC down at 3, it would just drive up the hill, and I found like I could gain like a tenth or two on someone if they were like smashing into their TC. And I found this one a really important corner as well, and it's also one where you kind of half commit, you don't really make as much time as you could, over commit, and you end up going well wide or maybe even losing the car. But so I was braking, I was looking at a 50 metre board I think to brake, and again not braking too heavily, only knocking down to 4th, just because I'm thinking here I'm trying to carry as much speed through it as I could. But then I'm turning hard in, and I'm aiming to get my left wheels onto like the green bit on the left hand side of the curb, because again with a bit of a camber on the curb it helps rotate your car around it. Trailing in to like a couple of metres away from the apex itself, but then just releasing the brakes so I can just ride on the outside wheels around it to get the most minimum speed I can. Then you sort of rest a beat on the edge of the tyres and then just nail the throttle on the way out. And I find that it's almost impossible to spin the car, but if you can get a bit of extra rotation from the rears, it does help a bit. Now, this is probably the scariest entry to any corner in the game, I reckon. It feels great, I think, when you get it right on the way in, although the last part of the corner I'll make a real meal of it. I'm turning in around this last Avis board on the left hand side, and you can sort of brake towards the curb on the right hand side or midway across, but I tend to like just play it a bit on the safe side here, because I know sometimes you steal an extra metre here and you might lose like 5 when it comes to the final apex on the right hand side. So I'm sort of leaning in on the wheel on the way in while braking, kind of carrying the brakes all the way to the left hand curb. I think this is actually a curb I could take quite a bit more of, but like I say, I didn't do heaps of practice here, and I seem to be kind of quick compared to other people in my split as I was doing this anyway. But yeah, I reckon in future I can probably take a bit more curb on the left. And to begin with, I was knocking down to second gear here, but I realised I think it was overslowing the car on the way in. It was making it harder to carry momentum through it, and I don't think I really needed the extra drive on the way out, because like especially when I had the TC a bit higher, it was just lighting up on exit. So I stuck to only downshifting to third gear here, and I found it was a fair bit quicker all the time and just a bit easier to drive as well. Then turning in, I was just really hard right hand down, aiming almost at the sausage on the right hand side, or not sausage, you know what I mean. But like a feature of the Corvette is the rears tend to get warmer than the fronts, so I'm not really scared at all about overturning the fronts, because I know I've got extra wear left on them anyway. But I found if it's really cranked hard on the way in, it really helps. You don't want to be doing the corner on the way out, and it seems the steering loads up really nicely on entry as well. Now this hateful little chicane over here, I've been braking at the beginning of the curbs there. I kind of knock it back into second, turn harder to the right than I initially thought I needed to, taking a bit of a curb on the right, then like turning in hard. The minute the car kind of settles from a right-hander, just turning really hard to the left again, letting it bounce over there, and then gunning it straight out. I initially was trying to take an approach where I was trying to get on the throttle as soon as possible, and I realised that I couldn't really accelerate how long it took to get the car settled again, so I might as well just scoot straight over and carry as much speed as I could through it, and just accept that I'm not going to be able to hit the throttle until a few minutes past the second curve. Then down the hill here, it's I find it quite easy to outbrake yourself, so I was trying to like hug the right hand side, coming around the corner, not braking too late because it's just not worth it, ends up in the gravel. For a while I was downshifting to third, but then I found actually just second, just because it's like downhill and maybe a bit off camber, the second just helps you turn in a bit better. But then straight out of that I was just short shifting up to third again, because I found third really helps for the final corner. And then it's just the blast back to the start line again. I don't know for sure, but I've been shifting basically at the red line on this every single time, so like 7,900 RPM or so. I don't notice much difference with that versus just as soon as the red lights come on, but I figure it does feel like it's still pulling hard rather than gasping for air, so I just run it right to the red line on the straights where I can concentrate on it. And and I'll just let the lap play over again without me talking over top of it. Cheers.